The aroma of freshly brewed coffee usually filled Miss Beatrice B. Jenkins's cozy kitchen, a comforting start to her days. But this morning, a different scent hung in the air. The faint, antiseptic smell of worry, mingling with the herbal notes of Mr. Reginald Reggie Jenkins's latest medication. B, a woman whose hands, gnarled with the graceful calligraphy of a life well lived, trembled slightly as she adjusted Reggie's pillow. He lay in his favorite armchair, his breath shallow, a testament to the relentless march of time and illness. Their small home, nestled in a quiet, tree-lined street in Capital City, had always been their sanctuary, a place where the simple rhythms of love and care dictated their days. But now, even within these familiar walls, a silent battle was being waged. Reggie needed his medicine, not just any medicine, but a specialized, costly prescription that was their weekly pilgrimage to the pharmacy. Without it, the fragile peace they had cultivated would shatter, replaced by the crushing weight of his deteriorating health. B knew this ritual intimately. The careful counting of dwindling pills, the anxious anticipation of the next dose. Today, however, felt different. A sense of foreboding, a quiet hum of unease, vibrated beneath the surface of her usual resolve. Her destination was the First Atlantic Bank, located in the gleaming glass and steel heart of downtown Capital City. For over 50 years, that bank had been as familiar to Bea as her own reflection. It had seen her through her first savings account, the deposit of Reggie's military paychecks, and the careful budgeting that raised their family. It was a pillar of stability, a trusted friend. But as she approached its imposing facade, reflecting the stark blue of the morning sky, it no longer felt familiar. The automated doors hissed open, revealing a minimalist interior, all sleek lines and cold, polished marble, utterly devoid of the warmth she remembered. It felt less like a community institution and more like a fortress of untouchable progress, humming with an invisible energy she couldn't quite grasp. Bea clutched her worn purse, its contents a testament to her meticulous nature, her savings passbook, utility bills, a faded photo of a young Reggie in his uniform, and even a handwritten note from the bank from years ago, all the proof she had ever needed. She approached the teller counter, where a young man with wireless earbuds, Mr. Kyle, was engrossed in his computer screen. "Hello," Bea offered, her voice a little smaller than usual. "I'd like to withdraw some funds from my savings account." Kyle looked up, his gaze flitting over her old wool coat before returning to his screen. "Have you set up our next-gen banking protocol app, ma'am?" His tone was even, almost automated. Bea hesitated, a frown creasing her brow. I don't have a smartphone," she replied gently, pulling out her passbook. "But I have all my documents here." Kyle paused, his thin-framed glasses glinting as he glanced at her. "I'm sorry, ma'am. Your account hasn't been digitally verified. It's a new policy. We can't make exceptions." A cold dread seeped into Bea's bones. Policy? She felt as if a cold, impenetrable wall had just risen between her and her own money. This wasn't just a bank. It was a symbol of a world moving on, leaving behind those who couldn't keep pace with its relentless digital march. Her old flip phone, sitting silently in her pocket, was no longer just a communication device. It was a testament to her helplessness, a stark reminder of how progress, unchecked by empathy, could become a barrier. She was an invisible statistic in a rising tide of digital exclusion, one of the millions of elderly or low-income individuals who found themselves locked out of essential services simply because the world had decided to move forward without them. This wasn't just a minor inconvenience. It was a quiet, insidious form of suffering, often unseen, often unheard. Little did Bea know, however, that in that very moment, a very large shadow had just fallen across the bank's threshold, a shadow that would soon challenge the very foundations of that cold, new policy. I'm very sorry, ma'am, but policy is policy. Miss Valerie Reed, the branch manager, stated, her voice cool and perfectly modulated. Valerie, with her sharp gray business suit and efficient demeanor, embodied the very spirit of the new First Atlantic Bank. She spoke of fraud prevention and system integrity, words that sounded logical, almost unassailable, yet struck Bee's ears like a foreign language, devoid of human warmth. Bee tried again, her voice cracking with desperation. But my husband, he needs medicine. I just need to withdraw my money. Please help me. Valerie's eyes, intelligent but unyielding, remained fixed on some distant point beyond Bee's trembling form. You're disturbing other customers, she said, and with a swift, almost imperceptible nod, 2 security guards, including Officer Grant, moved towards Bee. The humiliation was a physical weight pressing down on Bea as Officer Grant politely but firmly asked her to step outside. Her knees felt weak, and her hands, clutching her precious documents, gave way. The papers scattered across the gleaming marble floor. Reggie's old veteran certificate, a crumpled prescription, and a precious faded photograph of them both from their youth. It was a lifetime laid bare, scattered at the feet of indifference. It was a lifetime laid bare, scattered at the feet of indifference. Few customers whispered, their murmurs sounding like distant thunder, but no one stepped forward. Bee felt utterly alone, a tiny figure in a vast, uncaring space. Just as despair threatened to consume her, a colossal shadow fell over her. Not the cold, impersonal shadow of the bank, but a warm, living presence. Bee looked up, her tear-streaked eyes meeting the gaze of a man whose face was as familiar as the morning news, yet entirely unexpected in this sterile environment. It was Mr. Isaiah Ike Barnes, the legendary basketball icon, renowned for his towering height and his quiet acts of kindness. Beside him stood his daughter, Miss Simone Barnes, a bright, observant teenager whose eyes, sparkling with an innate curiosity, had first spotted Bee's silent distress. "Dad, look," Simone had whispered, her hand gently pulling Ike's arm, pointing towards the hunched figure on the bench outside. "Something's wrong with her." Ike, initially preoccupied, had followed his daughter's gaze. He recognized the universal language of anguish etched on Bee's face as she tried to gather her scattered memories. Without a word, Ike, guided by Simone's empathy, began to walk towards her. "Are you okay?" Ike's voice, deep and resonant, was surprisingly gentle, a balm to Bee's raw nerves. Bee, startled, quickly wiped her tears. She hesitated, unsure who this giant of a man was or why he cared. But the sincerity in his eyes was undeniable. I just wanted to withdraw money for my husband's medicine," she choked out, gesturing towards the imposing bank doors. "But they said I need a smartphone." Ike knelt, his massive frame surprisingly graceful, picking up the scattered papers, the prescription, and that faded photograph of Bee and Reggie. His eyes, which had witnessed countless battles on the court and countless injustices off it, softened. "How long have you banked here, ma'am?" he asked, his voice steady, carrying a quiet weight. "Over 50 years, Bee whispered, her voice trembling. "Never had any problems." Simone, standing beside them, took the photo of Reggie, a young soldier smiling proudly. "Dad," she said, her voice filled with a powerful indignation that belied her age. "She's lived her whole life, giving. They can't treat her like this." A hint of fire flickered in Ike's eyes. He sat down beside Bee, a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Don't you worry, ma'am," he said, his voice firm, resolute. "We're going back in there. We're going to resolve this." Bee's eyes widened with confusion and fear. "But they kicked me out," she protested, the shame still fresh. But looking into Ike's determined gaze, a glimmer of trust, of improbable hope ignited within her. "Sometimes people need to be reminded," Ike said, his voice now carrying a steely edge, "that they're dealing with a person, not just a policy number." He helped Bee to her feet, his voice hardening with resolve. "Let me handle this. For you and for your husband." Together, the towering icon, the compassionate teenager, and the frail, dignified woman walked back towards the imposing glass doors of the First Atlantic Bank. It was a procession that would soon become etched in the digital memory of millions. A moment when the unseen battle of the silent struggle was about to ignite a very public firestorm. They were stepping not just back into a bank, but into a crucible, where human empathy would clash head-on with rigid corporate dogma, and the outcome was far from certain. This was no ordinary transaction. It was a showdown that would redefine what it meant for progress to serve humanity. The silence in the First Atlantic Bank was no longer merely polite. It was thick, charged, and utterly electric. Every eye in the lobby was fixed on the formidable figure of Ike Barnes, who now stood before Miss Valerie Reed, the branch manager, his voice a low rumble that nonetheless commanded the attention of every single soul present. "You say policy is policy," Ike began, his gaze unwavering, cutting through Valerie's professional composure. "But tell me, Ms. Reed, which policy is so heartless as to prevent an elderly woman, a loyal customer for over 50 years, from accessing her own money?" Valerie, caught in the sudden, blazing spotlight, stammered, repeating the mantra of new security protocols and digital verification. But her words, once so firm, now seemed to crumble under the weight of Ike's quiet intensity and the 100 silent witnesses around them. Simone, ever the astute observer, had discreetly captured parts of the confrontation on her phone. She knew instinctively that this wasn't just a private moment. It was a public lesson waiting to unfold. She had filmed B's tear-streaked face, the scattered papers, and now her father's impassioned stand. Her caption, when she finally uploaded it to social media, was simple but potent. "Humanity before policy. First Atlantic fail." The digital world, often criticized for its superficiality, became, in this instance, a roaring megaphone for justice. Within hours, Simone's video exploded. Millions of views, hundreds of thousands of shares. The comments section became a vibrant tapestry of shared outrage and empathy. "This reminds me of my grandmother trying to get her vaccine appointment online. It's a nightmare," one user lamented. "They treat us like numbers, not people," another exclaimed, echoing the frustrations of countless individuals who had faced their own bureaucratic brick walls. From securing government benefits to simply paying a utility bill, the stories poured in. Tales of technological hurdles transforming simple tasks into insurmountable challenges for the less tech-savvy. The digital divide wasn't just a statistic. It was a daily struggle for real people. The tremors reached the highest echelons of First Atlantic Bank. An emergency board meeting was called. Valerie, who had initially been defensive, now found herself on the hot seat. The viral video was a public relations disaster of epic proportions. Every news channel, every morning talk show, every evening broadcast ran the story. The image of Ms. B. Jenkins, frail and heartbroken, contrasted sharply with the imposing facade of the bank and its unyielding policies. In that tense boardroom, Valerie unexpectedly found her voice. The cold professionalism began to crack, revealing a nascent understanding. She recounted the scene with B, the quiet dignity of the woman, the desperation in her eyes. "I know I upheld the regulation," Valerie stated, her voice steady now, but watching her, seeing the public's reaction. "I believe our bank has a responsibility to prioritize people over algorithms. If we forget the human cost of our policies, we've forgotten why we exist." Her words hung in the air, a stunning admission that resonated with some of the more progressive board members who had already seen the scathing comments online. The pressure wasn't just external. It was now building from within. This wasn't merely a PR problem. It was a crisis of conscience. And in that moment, the narrative began to shift. The digital echo had not just exposed a flaw, it had ignited a fundamental re-evaluation, proving that a single act of kindness, amplified by the interconnected world, could truly ignite a firestorm of change. The next question wasn't if change would come, but how far and how deep it would truly go. Atlantic Bank in a new, unfamiliar landscape. The digital firestorm had forced their hand, but what emerged was more than just damage control. It was a genuine, albeit initially reluctant, shift in philosophy. Valerie Reed, the branch manager who had initially upheld the rigid policy, now found herself at the vanguard of this transformation. Her impassioned words in the boardroom had resonated, and she was promoted to a newly created position, head of community engagement and accessibility. It was a role that, ironically, stemmed directly from the very crisis she had helped navigate. Valerie, who had once been a bastion of corporate policy, was now tasked with making sure such policies never overshadowed humanity again. But the real change, the kind that warmed the soul, began quietly, away from the headlines. Weeks after the bank incident, a familiar, sleek, black SUV pulled up to Bea and Reggie's humble home. It was Ike and Simone. They didn't come empty-handed. Besides a year's supply of Reggie's vital medication, a gift that brought tears to Bea's eyes and a profound relief to her heart, they brought something else, a simple, user-friendly mobile phone, specifically chosen for its large buttons and clear interface if Bea ever chose to explore the digital world on her own terms. More importantly, they brought warmth, laughter, and a renewed sense of connection. They sat in the cozy living room, chatting about Reggie's improving health, the small joys of their quiet lives, and the unexpected friendship that had blossomed from adversity. It was during this visit that Ike unveiled his true vision. "Is Bea, Mr. Reggie," he began, his voice resonating with deep conviction. "Your story isn't just about a bank. It's about how progress can leave people behind and how much courage it takes just to live with dignity. Simone and I, we wanted to make sure your experience sparks a lasting light for others." And with that, he announced the establishment of the Beatrice and Reginald Jenkins Compassion Fund. This wasn't just a charitable donation, it was a perpetual lifeline. The fund was dedicated to providing financial assistance to elderly individuals struggling with technological barriers to essential services, and to those facing medical emergencies due to systemic gaps, ensuring that no one in their community would again face the desperate choice Bea had. The ripple effect within First Atlantic Bank was profound. Under Valerie's guidance, they introduced human-touch desks, dedicated counters where customers could conduct transactions face-to-face without any digital prerequisites. They launched community outreach programs, offering free, gentle digital literacy workshops for seniors, always emphasizing that technology was an option, not a mandate. Bank staff, including Kyle, underwent mandatory empathy training, learning to see the person behind the account number, to listen with their hearts, not just their ears. It was a remarkable shift, a testament to the fact that genuine change often requires a public reckoning, but true transformation begins with internal reflection and a renewed commitment to core values. This was a powerful lesson for any institution. Innovation without inclusion is not just unethical, it's unsustainable. Those who stubbornly resist change, refusing to put their customers first, will inevitably fall behind. Bea and Reggie, once victims of a cold policy, had become catalysts for a revolution in customer service, their quiet dignity sparking a broader conversation about corporate responsibility. Their names, now synonymous with compassion and resilience, would ensure that no one else in Capital City would have to fight such a silent, desperate battle again. But the story, like a gently flowing river, carried on, its currents of kindness reaching far beyond the bank's gleaming walls, ready to touch even more lives in unexpected ways. A year had passed since the day Bea Jenkins faced the cold, unyielding face of progress at First Atlantic Bank. The morning sun, now a familiar comfort, streamed through their living room window, illuminating the gentle smile on Reggie's face as he sat in his armchair, a new sense of vigor in his eyes. The regular delivery of his medication, now seamlessly managed through the Beatrice and Reginald Jenkins Compassion Fund, had lifted a crushing weight from their lives. B, her hands no longer trembling with anxiety, but with the pleasant rhythm of daily tasks, poured them both a fresh cup of tea. Their small home, once shadowed by quiet worry, now glowed with a profound, enduring peace. Their story, once a viral sensation, had become something more profound, a legend. Across Capital City, the B. Jenkins story was whispered not just as a cautionary tale for corporations, but as an inspiring beacon for everyday people. The phrase, humanity before policy, had become a rallying cry in unexpected places, from community meetings discussing public services to local businesses rethinking their customer relations. The bank, under Valerie Reed's dedicated leadership, truly transformed, becoming a model for empathetic banking, even earning national recognition for its pioneering human touch initiatives. But the most heartwarming echo of their resilience could be seen in the lives touched by the Compassion Fund. Through a series of heartfelt montages, we could glimpse the fund's impact. A young student whose elderly guardian finally had access to affordable medication thanks to the fund, excelling in their studies. A single mother, struggling to navigate complex online forms for benefits, receiving personal assistance and guidance that cut through bureaucratic red tape. A quiet elder, no longer isolated, learning to video call their grandchildren thanks to the fund's digital literacy program. These were the quiet victories, the daily triumphs of compassion over systemic indifference. B and Reggie, two seemingly ordinary individuals, had become extraordinary catalysts. Their story was a powerful testament that in an increasingly technology-dependent and rigid world, compassion and humanity remain the guiding lights. They reminded everyone that people do not exist to serve rules. Rules are created to serve people. The love and sacrifice B showed for Reggie, along with Ike's compassion, gave us a profound lesson. Sometimes small actions can change a person's entire life, even an entire community. From seemingly ordinary moments, we can make a significant difference, as long as we always prioritize our hearts and compassion above all. One sunny afternoon, as B sat beside Reggie, holding his hand, she looked out at the vast blue sky. "You know, Reggie," she whispered, a contented smile on her lips, "we've lived a life worth living, and you know what? Even if it's just a small part, we've helped change the world." Reggie squeezed her hand, his eyes gleaming with pride. "That's right, B," he rasped, his voice filled with love, "and it's thanks to compassion. Ike's compassion. The compassion of those children out there, and the compassion within our own hearts." Their story didn't end in their small house. It extended far beyond, becoming a symbol of kindness, love, and resilience. It was a powerful reminder that no matter what difficulties life brought, kind-hearted people would appear just when they were needed most. And compassion always had the power to overcome everything. In any circumstance, we can become bearers of hope, even with a small act. Kindness has a powerful ripple effect, and the world always needs brave people to stand up for what's right. This story, B knew, would forever serve as a beacon, reminding us all that the most profound progress isn't measured in technology or profit, but in the enduring, boundless echo of human kindness. Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. If their journey resonated with you, and if you believe in the power of overcoming adversity, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel to continue exploring more inspiring stories that challenge the status quo.